Guys, so welcome to my second segment on my channel. So this segment is going to cover basically fashion of the 18th century and stuff that has to do in that category. Anyway, so by 1788, the once fashionable peigne, worn under a lady's gown to extend her hips, had disappeared. By the 1790s, fashion of the 18th century was pretty much at its simplest point. Ladies wore gowns of white cotton or muslin material, most often with an overcoat. It was remarked that ladies looked as though they were walking around in their underwear because the material was it looked sheer, but it wasn't actually that sheer. In the 1790s, these coats that they wore over top came in two styles. The first was short in the front and long in the back and tied under the bust, while the second was short all around. If you've ever seen Pride and Prejudice, you'll notice that the coats they wore were long sleeve, went short all the way around and buttoned up the front. And that movie's probably set between 1796 and 1797. When the 19th century began, Napoleon was Emperor of the French. He had been to Egypt and was inspired by the simple white cotton gown. Therefore, he adopted this style of empire fashion for the ladies of his court. These gowns had a high waist and the sleeves were short and slightly puffy. So this would have been between 1805 and 1810. Napoleon's sister Pauline was even known for once wearing a completely sheer gown, and according to some sources, this angered Napoleon to the point where he forbade her from leaving her rooms until she changed. So first we're going to cover the peigne. So these were part of a lady's undergarments worn in the 17th and 18th centuries. It was used to extend the width of the skirts at both sides while leaving the front and back flat. This provided a panel where woven patterns, elaborate decorations, and rich embroidery could be displayed and fully appreciated. So the history of the peigne. The style originated in Spanish court dress in the 17th century. The fashion spread to France and from there into the rest of Europe after 1719, when some Spanish dresses had been displayed in Paris. And see, I didn't know this at first. I didn't know that the peigne originally came from Spain. The earlier form of the peigne took the shape similar to the 1850s crinoline, which basically was the same concept but went all the way around in a circle. They were wide and domed shape. So by the mid-18th century, a woman took up 3 times as much space as a man, and always presented an imposing spectacle because of her large hips. These peignes really extended the hips. And this is why I think the doors in those houses were so wide, so that they could fit through the doors. So at their most extreme, peignes could extend the skirt up to several feet on each side. By the 1780s, peignes were normally only worn to very formal gowns and within court fashion. By 1788, they had completely disappeared. So the name peigne is a French term for wicker baskets that are slung on either side of a pack animal. So if you've ever seen those pack animals, I think they have them in Peru or something, but they're like donkeys that have 2 baskets slung over their back. That's kind of what they're like. They really did resemble these. So I'm going to show you a portrait of an example of a 17th century Spanish peigne when they first became fashionable. So this portrait is of Maria Teresa of Spain when she was about 12 or 13. And she was the wife of Louis XIV. So this portrait would have been in about 1653. And as you notice, the peignes are extremely wide. Even the hair is wide. So yeah, and then here is a portrait of Marie Antoinette that was painted in 1779. And again, you see the peignets are extremely wide. And so this portrait was commissioned by Marie Antoinette's mother, Maria Theresa of Austria. And it was painted in order to show the grandeur and power of her daughter's position as Queen of France. And then, of course, this is like a doll that's displaying a large peigne, as well as the corset. So they were rather large. I can imagine it must have taken a lot to be able to carry yourself around all day wearing those. Alright, so that's it for part 1. There'll be about 2 more parts to this video, so make sure to subscribe to my channel, and I hope you enjoy. Bye!